Hi everybody, I am delighted to be here with the wonderful Zahra. What are we cooking today?
So today we've got an exciting menu. We're going to start off by making a parsley and pomegranate salad, and then we're going to be making a delicious cucumber and yogurt salad called mastkhiyar. It's a wonderful Persian dish. And these are to complement our main course, which is a saffron and chicken recipe with Frica. And finally, we're going to have a delicious mango kunafa cups.
Nice. I'm looking forward to that. There's a lot of different recipes from a lot of different places. How do you kind of marry all these traditional recipes together?
So for me, I believe that flavors are memories. Flavors, when they marry together, some beautiful things happen. And so a lot of the recipes today are a mix of my traditional recipes that I grew up with, but also modern takes that have been influenced by my travel. So the pomegranate parsley is kind of a take of a traditional tabbouleh.
Yeah.
The mastkhiyar or the leban khiyar has been kind of oomphed a little bit with some pecans and cranberries and dried rose petals. And the saffron chicken is a marriage of Palestinian and Persian heritage.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Great.
Shall we start?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so I'm going to start by preparing the parsley and pomegranate salad.
Okay.
And while I chop the onions, maybe I'll get you to start preparing the cucumbers for the yogurt salad.
Okay.
So we're just going to need 2 cucumbers. Finally dice them, cube them.
All right.
And I'll just take my onion and I'm going to finally slice it.
I've never felt so much pressure slicing a vegetable. What's your standout Ramadan memory or tradition?
So I'm half Iranian, half Sudanese, and some of my fondest memories are of my childhood in Sudan.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's all about, the pre-Ramadan preparations. All the ladies of the family would get together and we'd make insane quantities of different items that you prepare. And for me, it was predominantly the sambusecs. We'd be making our beef sambusecs, our cheese sambusecs, and someone would be frying the meat, someone would be rolling out the dough, someone would be crimping the pastry. So it's that sense of family that was really precious, and that's what I try to recreate for my kids, because living as an expat, your friends become your family, your neighbors become your family, and so you create new memories with them. And so food is a great medium to do that.
And what do they look forward to the most, you think, when it comes to Ramadan? If I were to ask your kid, you have how many kids?
3 boys.
3 boys. So that's hungry. That's 3 hungry boys, I'm sure, right?
Well, they do like the fact that they come home early from school.
Yeah.
But I think they're starting to get to the age where they want to be parts of the experience. So they're starting to fast, and it's just that month where where we kind of reinforce the importance of being charitable, about looking and taking care of people outside our immediate circle, and just being contributors to the community.
But tell me, how did you get started with all of this?
So I've always been a feeder. When I was in university, we used to always invite all my international student friends over and just kind of give them a taste of home.
It's good having friends like that.
And so once a year, we would have all my friends come and we'd make them a delicious feast and just let them feel comfortable. And then when I moved to Dubai, I just found that food is a great way to bring people together. People like to be fed. And I like that emotion what that emotion is. And so, yeah. So I've chopped my onions and I'm just going to marinate them. And basically, it's going to be a beautiful balance of acidic and sweet flavors. So for my recipe, I have some sugar, pomegranate molasses, and I'm just going to need a tiny amount because it's quite tart. And then apple cider vinegar, and that's where the acidity comes from.
So this is like a pickling.
Yeah. All right, and finally I'll just put some olive oil. And what I'm gonna do, just season with a bit of salt, and we're just going to let this sit. And what this does is, red onions can be quite pungent. And so by marinating it like this, it softens the onions and just gives a really nice final flavor to the salad. So for your cucumber salad, if I can ask you just to pour that in.
All right.
And then if you just want to add in your yogurt.
The whole thing?
Yep, just put the whole thing.
Gracefully, obviously, right? Okay.
And then we'll just put some cranberries. And the cranberries, again, a lot of my recipes, you'll notice, have a balance of the sweet and savory flavors. And this is very much influenced by my Persian heritage. We do like to balance the flavors together.
What's
some
next?
Chopped pecans.
I love pecans. The whole thing?
The whole thing.
The whole thing. I'll do the whole thing unless otherwise instructed.
Yes, yes.
All right, good.
Not the whole mince. Take just pinch some, and then with mince, it's really important to grind it between your fingertips so that it has a powdery effect. Otherwise, you get strands of the mint, and that's not really enjoyable.
All right.
And I will help you with the salt.
Just one pinch or another one?
You can add another pinch.
Another one.
Okay, and then not too much salt. And you know what? I'm going to be a bit fancy.
Okay.
And I'm going to just add a little bit of the rose petals. I'll just crush it with my fingers. And this will give it a nice aromatic flavor. And then we're ready to serve it up. If you just want to give it one final mix.
Okay.
Here, let me help you if you want.
Thank you.
But you know, we always have to go back to Mama's tradition, which is the garnishing, the old school garnishing. So she would always like just use her finger to pinch a little design. You can do whatever you want. And then we'll just take some the rose petals and just garnish it on top. Just adds a nice pop of color. So our yogurt salad is ready, and now we can start preparing or finishing off the parsley and pomegranate salad. And I'll just give you the marinated onions, which you can just add into the parsley.
Look at the color of those onions.
Is that pretty? Here, I'll take
really
that
good.
from you.
Thank you. And all the pomegranate?
Mm-hmm. And then just toss everything together.
Okay, this is where I mess it up.
See, in my kitchen, there is no such thing. Even a mistake works.
Good.
I'll hold the bowl, and if I can ask you just to pour the salad in, and we're done. It's ready to be served. Shall we start with the next?
Let's do it.
All right.
So the main event? Time for the main event.
Yes. So I'm very excited about this recipe. It's one of my favorite recipes. It's saffron chicken with Frica. And I love this recipe because it's got so many beautiful flavors and it's very easy to make. It's a one-pot dish. So we prepare it and serve it in the same pot.
Excellent. Sounds like my kind of dish.
Yes.
So I know Frica, but not everybody will know Frica. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Frica, what it is, how you treat it, how you work with it?
So Frica is a wheat durum. It's whole, so it doesn't get processed. And it's just toasted to give it a nice smoky flavor. I think it's considered a superfood. And it's also a very sustainable ingredient in the sense that it doesn't need as much water as wheat or rice to produce. So it's very good for the environment.
Fantastic. And we're using the chicken legs for this.
Yes.
Great.
I have to say, in general, I have a policy where I like to be very mindful and thoughtful when I cook. So we will use all parts of every ingredient and make sure that we use as little waste as possible. So for example, we're going to be using some parsley for our recipe. I won't be using the stem, but I'll always save it on the side and use it into my stock because the stem actually has a lot of good flavor. Whatever bones that we have from our chicken, we'll use it to make broth. Whatever vegetables that are going bad, we'll just either freeze them for stock purpose, broth making purposes. So There's a lot of simple ways where we can be mindful and conscious. It just needs a bit of thought.
Okay, perfect. Let's get going.
Okay, so for this recipe, I'm gonna start off, I'll do the chopping this time.
Okay.
I'm gonna chop some onions, and if you want, you can start preparing the pot. So here I've got a really nice shallow pot, and I like preparing this dish in this type of pot because it's just beautiful to serve in. So if you can just add some vegetable oil.
Great. Any vegetable oil?
Yes, just that one. And I'll start putting in the onions, and we'll just fry it until it's translucent. So you just need to saute it for a couple of minutes.
Okay.
And I like adding a lot of flavor, so I'm just gonna add some cardamom seeds and a cinnamon stick.
So this is the main event, but in Ramadan there's often more than one main event.
Yes.
How do you kind of keep yourself from going over the top, and what are your tips for sort of healthier eating during Ramadan? One of the things that a lot of people, myself included, do is sort of eat yourself silly. What's the best way to avoid doing that?
To be honest with you, if there's anything I've learned through the years, is that less is more.
Okay.
Because first of all, when you're fasting all day, your appetite really isn't as big as it would be if it's a normal working or a normal day. And I always keep some minced garlic in my pantry. So what I'll do is I'll usually get large quantities of garlic, and I'll just mince them and store it with some salt and olive oil. Make sure that it's always covered with olive oil. And this keeps in the fridge for about a week, 10 days. And it just makes the whole process of cooking so much faster. And I'm gonna be generous because we love garlic in our household. And here I'm also gonna add some minced ginger.
A twist on a traditional kind of set of ingredients and recipes. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I love this recipe because I think it really embodies everything that I represent. So my husband's Jordanian Palestinian, I'm Iranian Sudanese, and I say this is the marriage of flavors. Frica is a very Levant-based grain.
Yeah.
Saffron chicken or saffron that I use for my chicken is very Persian. And then you've got all the different elements like the ginger and the cardamom and the mixed nuts. And these are just elements that I picked up from different, different things that I've contributed to my tapestry.
I like that. Okay. And I should be mixing these together?
Yeah, just give everything a nice toss. Allow the frica to get toasted with the oil. I'm just going to reduce the fire slightly. Yeah. What's nice about this, it's a one-pot meal. You have as little cleaning up to do, and you serve it in the same pot, and it just gives you a very hearty, warm feeling when you serve it. And so what I do is I like to just even everything out. And then I'm using skinless chicken legs, and I'll just place it on top. And I know people start panicking when I do this. They're like, what? You're putting the raw chicken over your frica? Trust me, it's gonna cook beautifully and it will be super delicious. So turmeric is a very important spice in the Persian kitchen. It's considered an anti-inflammatory. And I find it also does a great job of neutralizing,
sharper flavors.
Yeah. And then here's some of the Arabic twist, some Arabic sabah bahar, 7 spice.
Okay.
So we'll just put that on top. And then some more cinnamon. And at this point, if you don't have whole cardamom, you can put a pinch of cardamom powder. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a pinch of saffron.
Okay.
Now the saffron for me is a hero ingredient. Saffron is typically strands, but you'll see what I've done is I've just ground it.
Okay.
And the reason why I do that is because when you put a whole saffron in hot water, it won't allow the colors and the flavor to just come out.
Okay.
By grinding it, it just ensures that the flavor is much richer and the color is much richer. So I'll just put some saffron in here. And you don't need too much because saffron, if you put too much, can be quite overwhelming. Just give this a nice mix.
Wow, you get the color straight away.
Yeah. And you only get it this way when it's ground.
Okay.
Actually, something I recently learned, like even you can smell it right away. Something I learned, something I learned recently is that if you put a saffron strand in water, and if it gives color, that means it's a poor grade.
Ah.
Your saffron should only give color once you've ground it.
Wow, that looks beautiful already.
We'll just cover this and let this simmer away on medium-high heat. On medium heat for about 30 minutes, and then for the last 10 minutes we'll remove the lid.
So this has been going now for 30, 40 minutes?
Yes, and it should be ready. There we go.
Wow, look at that. It even sounds delicious.
All I need to do now is just turn off the heat, and I'll chop some parsley. And if I can maybe give you the spoon, and here I've got some mixed nuts and dried fruit, which...
And should I be liberal with this?
Yes.
All right.
And then finally, we'll just garnish with some parsley, and our main is finished.
Look at that guy. Wow.
Time for dessert.
Now it's the passion fruit and mango kunafa.
Yes.
Kunafa is super traditional.
Yes.
Passion fruit and mango.
So this is like my fun, creative take on a traditional recipe. Just to give it a bit of oomph. I love this recipe, and one of my fondest memories with this recipe is I made it for some friends, and they had a spoonful, and they compared it to a hug. So I should call this the hug dessert.
All right. So I'm gonna cut through some of these.
Yes. So while you're just prepping the passion fruit, I'm going to prepare my kunafa. And this process is pretty much the same as you would do any kunafa recipe. Is I'm just going to separate the threads apart, and then I'll coat it with some butter or clarified butter if you want, and then I'll just toast this in the oven. So. And what's nice about this recipe, like everything that we've made today, they're very easy but super flavorful. Because I really believe that cooking should not be a chore. It should be fun, it should be easy and accessible. Just be a bit more mindful overall. I'm just gonna put this in the oven, and I'm gonna let it toast. I preheated it at 200 degrees Celsius, and I'll let it toast for about 5 to 7 minutes. I just want it to have a nice golden brown color.
Okay.
So now that this is ready, I'm gonna start cutting the mangoes, which we're going to be using for our kunafa. And if I could ask for you to start maybe mixing.
Doing some mixing.
Yes. So here we've got cream cheese, and then we're going to be sweetening it with some icing sugar. Okay, so now we can add in the whipped cream.
And this is what you told me?
So this is whipped cream.
All of this?
Yeah, put the whole thing.
Fantastic. We're back in.
So Khalid, our kunafa is ready. I'm just
Nice.
going to make sure it's nicely spread out. You need it to cool down for a bit. You need it to cool down for maybe like 5 minutes, and then we can start the assembly part. Fun begin. So I always start off with some kunafa on the base of my cup. And it's kind of like a kunafa cheesecake, a kunafa parfait, call it what you want.
Okay.
And then I'll take a nice generous amount of the mixture. And you know, what's nice about this is that it's very rustic. In general, I try to make food or prepare food that it's okay for it not to be perfect, because
That's what my wife says about me, that I'm rustic. You know?
And I'm gonna add some passion fruit, because I think this is just gonna be really good. And then we add another layer. So I'm from the school of thought, it's the imperfections that is perfection.
Yeah. And Kanata is a fun, kind of messy food, so I don't think there's anything wrong with it at all.
And then we'll take another spoonful. And then just and then top with some mangoes. So keeping it healthy too, with all this fruit. And a little bit of passion fruit. And then some Middle Eastern touch.